So we were the only factory outside of Germany for for decades, because the first factory outside of Germany other than us was Spartanburg.
Yeah.
And that's when it all started. And Spartanburg was for X5 94.
Yeah, I mean, at that time we were exporting cars.
We were already, yes, but on a very low scale. That was happening. That happened sporadically throughout the history of BMW, as we found out.
It shows the quality that they had, a faith in the South Africans.
By 94 we were exporting. Just to pick up on Marek's point there, I mean, we were both fortunate. I mean, as you know, Marek has got a massive archive at his place. Not only for BMW, but it helps that the biggest part of the archive is BMW.
Yes, correct.
And we didn't start from scratch, I must be honest with us. I mean, I've been writing about BMWs in South Africa for many years. So we had a foundation and a basis to start from. And then Marek and I both looked at each other and said, who's going to do the motorsport section of this book?
Okay.
But fortunately, we both knew Dennis, and just as we got going, he's 60 years of Kyalami.
And the motorsport part, was a big part of BMW.
We had to have it in there. We couldn't leave it out because it spawned the cars.
Yeah.
Some of the cars were made for motorsport, and others ended up in motorsport. So that story is integral. We see here the 250 pages starts going more because you can't leave it out.
Yeah. So Dennis, what was the guy? He was the only guy to go to in terms of doing the motorsport section.
Yeah. Okay, so talk us through the book. Are they going to do together, or
I'll do the beginning bit because that was mostly the responsibility.
But I think you must go also now, Marek, go to the dream team, and this is another aspect where I'm really glad Marek said,
right,
let's tell the full story.
Yes.
Let's tell the story about the MDs and the CEOs and the wonderful things they did, but they were individuals. I mentioned Pamela Chapel.
Like independence.
No. And like Marek said, at this point in time, BMW was still a family.
Yes.
And you could think out of the box. I think they had more autonomy.
Correct.
As an independent market to do independent things.
Okay.
And this is reflected in the book. But I mean, he came up with the idea, let's talk about the dream team. And Marek kept in touch with all of these people.
Wow.
And he's got most of them on speed dial. So he could phone these people and he would interact, and he can tell about the dream team and some of the wonderful stories that come out of that section. And they're not the MDs, but they are the Pamela Chapels of the world that got, Esther Mashlangu to paint the art car. But Marek, tell them about the rest.
In fact, what we decided and realized was that the managing directors all came and went because they were all on a career path of some description.
Yes.
But there were people within the organization that had been there for 20 years, 25 years, 30 years who dedicated their lives to the company. Sure. And these people were the ones making the difference.
Correct.
Motorplan was a South African initiative done by Vic Doolan, who was the sales and marketing director for BMW from 77 to 88, sorry.
Sure.
And that was his idea.
Yeah, so no BMW all over the world didn't have...
Nobody had it in the world. So the fact that the world has it now is because of Vic Doolan.
Yeah.
One man. Literally one man. The implementation rolls out to a team, but the one man has the idea to say, you know what, guys, let's take the worry of any kind of servicing. It was reputational, because what you've got to remember is that BMW was the first manufacturer in the world to fully turn their cars into electronic cars. So they had electronic fuel injection.
Okay.
Mercedes-Benz had mechanical fuel injection for the longest time. In fact, they were the first fuel-injected car.
Yeah.
But BMW were the very first electronic fuel-injected car, and every single one of their cars was electronically fuel-injected.
Yeah. So those are the ones with, like, you had the 0316 and then the I. And then that
I stood for injection.
That's electronic fuel injection.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it was always electronic.
Okay.
It was all electronic. Sorry, I need to be correct here, because the E21s had mechanical fuel injection.
But so did the 2002 TII.
Correct. But I'm talking about when they all became injection cars.
Yes.
They were all electronic at that point.
Yes.
And people were scared of it.
Okay.
People thought, well, if it breaks, who can fix electronics?
Yes.
So that's when Vic Doolan said, I'm going to take the worry of fixing your car. If it breaks, for 5 years, you worry about nothing.
Yeah.
And no one else did that.
Wow.
And it changed how people saw the brand. If you put your faith in it, I can do that. So if we look at the beginning, the book deals with all how it started with some amazing black and white pictures that, as I explained to you, were never published before.
Okay.
And then it goes even into, when we talk about people, Hannes Pretorius, his personal, I got his personal handwritten memoirs from his daughter who's now in her 80s.
Wow.
So this Hannes Pretorius story is a book on its own. But I got stuff there that has never been seen before, that is worth reading. And then we go into the leadership, which are all the former MDs.
Okay.
And as I say, I interviewed all of them. This is one of my favorite pictures here. You're going to see. This was the first managing director, Rudolf Graf von der Schullenberg. He's in his office with a map of South Africa behind him. And what an amazing man. And like I said, their love for South Africa is great. And one of my questions I asked all of these people was, what was your funniest moment in South Africa?
Yes.
Because this is not just this isn't corporate stuff you're reading here. This is anecdotes from these people.
Yes.
This is from their heart, from their life experiences. This is, so it's relatable. You want to read this.
Yes.
You're not going to think, oh, well, this is going to ask him, how many cars did we sell? It's not about how many cars you sold. How much fun did you have? What was your best moment? What was your most challenging moment?
It's like memoirs.
Exactly. It's actually, that's what it's about. You want to read this. And if you didn't think you wanted to, I'm telling you want to, and you must. So we dealt with them. So we dealt with all the MDs. There's old Ian Robertson. He was fantastic as well. Tim, who was, he got X3 into the factory as a one-make plant. And then what we did is we started with a dream team here. The dream team are all of these people that made the difference to the launches and what happened, and here's Precious Reader's chapter. It's fascinating, really. This is stuff that you're going to read you've never heard of before.
Father Concord, Marek, that's my favorite part.
Here's the prototype 333, which is a picture that was sent to me by Precious Reader.
Wow.
Literally the prototype under construction.
Number one.
Yeah.
Sure.
Prototype 745s there, that actually this one became a Tony Viana's race car.
Okay. Amazing.
So here's old Vic Doolan. Here's the guy who did Motorplan. This is his story. Vic is now 84 years old.
Sure.
And he lives in California. And all of these people were so excited to share the thing.
Was Vic also a German?
No, Vic was English. He worked at Leyland, and he was at the plant in Blackheath in Cape Town. Murray Difford started BMW Motorsport. He bought the M1 Pro cars out here in 1980. He did the 530 MLE stuff. That was his initiative. Really amazing stuff. John Jessup was the former marketing director for many years. Also, really great guy.
Wow.
And then I want to show you guys here with the BMW. It's the launch of the E30, and then we get to the point here where the Concorde was used to launch the E36.
Wow.
And that's the man who was responsible for it, or the two men. He was my boss at BMW, Alan Dessels. Oh, and another thing is we've got QR codes in the books, and the QR codes link to the video series that we did last year to celebrate the 50th with cars. So each of the QR codes brings the chapters to life. So you can scan on the cars, and you can scan on that, and you can see interviews. So BMW used to charter. They had their own jumbo jet. There's a 5 Series on the wing for the launch of the 5 Series. Took everybody to Rio. For that. Launch of the Concorde. That's what the dream team is about. It's really phenomenal. It's amazing stuff.
You're going to tell them about SA Trim, Marek.
BMW owned a factory called SA Trim. Here's a picture of the factory from the air. It's in Garankuwa. And SA Trim ended up manufacturing the leather for every single BMW worldwide from the mid-80s to the mid-90s.
Wow, that's amazing.
That is amazing.
And SA Trim was actually, we interviewed the guy who ran it, and he was director of human resources at BMW, Dave Kirby. SA Trim was as a company ended up bigger than BMW South Africa in terms, because it started making for other manufacturers, which is why they called it SA trim. Even though BMW owned it, they didn't want people to, it wasn't BMW trim. So it was a separate company, and it was set up in Garankuwa because Garankuwa was an independent homeland at the time, and it allowed them a certain amount of free trade. It wasn't associated with South Africa per se, and it gave great employment. So everything BM did was strategic at that time.
Exactly, very business minded.
And then we go into the car section, which Johan can tell you about.
Now we start with the cars.
Yeah, so it's all the unique cars that were made here at Shiraz, and like Marek stated earlier on, this is the Glas car that became a BMW in South Africa.
She doesn't have the kidneys.
But it's got the BMW badge. So this is the first car that rolled off the plant in Rosslyn in 1968. And initially offered as a 1800. And then as a 2 liter. So the 1800 SA and then the 2000 SA. And if we...
One of them will call it Cheetah or something?
That was in Rhodesia.
We'll show you that we've covered that. So I'm just going through this very quickly. But there's your Cheetah badge on the steering wheel. And here's an ad in Rhodesia then, with a cheetah on the car and a lady, brave enough, standing next to the cheetah in the car.
And the car wrapped in a cheetah thing. And they were wrapping cars already in the 60s.
Wow. And what I pointed out to you guys earlier on, what we tried to do with this book, all the manuals that the car came with, is covered in the book. The ads that we used, the brochures, covered in the book. What I want to show you is Marek, like I said, has got an archive. And Marek has got this brochure. This is the actual car that the 1800 and 2000 SA is based on. It's the 1700 Glas. This is the body. And we found this brochure and we scanned it and we included it in the book. And then it evolves. But just as a matter of interest, they consider even doing a station wagon for South Africa at some point.
One prototype made. I want to interject here and show you that one of the things that we got when you talk about how far did we dig, when they changed the 2000 SA to this, which was the 2004, this was the very first BMW car built in 73 when BMW bought the factory. Schellenberg told me that they had to redesign the car because they gave it kidneys, right? But this didn't exist in BMW, so it came from South Africa, and the original body was designed by a designer called Pietro Frua. He was a very well-known Italian designer, designed all the Maseratis of the 50s and 60s, amongst others. There are Pietro Frua's handwritten notes on what to change on this car for South Africa. So we literally got copies of the original designer's handwritten notes on that car.
And this is the prototype.
So when we talk about getting gems, if you actually read and understand what this is about, you will see how much detail there is in the book.
That's amazing. So
just before I just want to show you how interesting this car actually is and how
the 2004.
2004. So you've seen it from the front now, right? It's got the indicators from the E9. The headlights is at
E3.
E3 from the E3. So they're rating the parts now, right, to make this car. And what they do here is they take the taillights from the E12. Right? And they change it left to right and they turn them upside down. And there you have a 2004. So it just shows how these people thought out of the box. There was never a problem, there was only a solution.
And they still got that kink.
Surprisingly.
So Pietro Frua designed that car, and so they talk about the Hofmeister kink, but technically Frua was doing it before Hofmeister. So it's a very interesting little design overlap from that point of view. And then we took it one step further, which is very important. This is going to become, or is now officially the Bible of BMW in South Africa. And I use that term loosely because you can choose whichever form you want. But what we did was, we then decided, in order for it to be accurate, we've got a section in the back called the numbers. Now, everybody's an expert, hey? Shiraz, when you talk to everybody, they've all got their version of a story, and everyone is an expert. Now, if what they say does not agree with this book, they're not an expert.
They're not an expert, yeah.
Because we managed to go through 3 databases that they had at BMW. I had to consolidate 3 production databases in order to get these numbers. We analyzed chassis numbers. We had printouts. We spent over a week at the factory just going through, trying to pull things. Because remember, first it was all manual. Then it was all done on mainframe, IBM mainframe. Then mainframes transitioned to different stuff, and eventually it all ended up on SAP.
Sure.
So with all the transitions, so your data gets corrupted and changed. So what we've got here for each car is we've got the number made, the years it was made from, the prices it started and finished at, and the outputs of it. And when you get to more advanced cars where there's more data, for example, I'm going to take you to one. Come over here. You can see for the 530 MLE, 108 were made, the years it was made between, the prices, and here we have even the chassis number sequences.
Wow.
So from 530 MLE, we have got full chassis number sequence on each of the cars. So when we tell you what the production figure is, you can cross-check it.
Yeah.
And we picked up something on the 333, which is very interesting. The 333 ran 2 sequences of chassis numbers.
Okay.
And everybody says, I've got car number 1.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'll give you a little tip. They're 2 car number 1s.
Okay.
Because the first sequence started 333-3, and the second sequence started 333-7.
Okay.
If you don't look at the first numbers,